I hate to be the one to do it, but somebody's gotta hand out reality checks, so I guess I'm him. So, X-Men 97 wrapped up its first season, doing its job near flawlessly, becoming the season 6 of X-Men the Animated Series that we all wanted. No, I take it back. It was the show we all needed. It's revitalized interest in Marvel properties again, especially after the last few MCU misfires. One of the best elements of the revival show was the reminder that it's part of a larger connected universe. Iron Man the Animated Series, Fantastic Four, Hulk, Silver Surfer the Animated Series, the majority of those shows had little cameos in the series along with others like Doctor Strange, Black Panther, Cloak and Dagger, and Daredevil. When these cameos dropped, hype levels reached all-time highs, but the biggest pop was when Spider-Man made a 4-second cameo of him swinging, and not just any version of Spider-Man, it was Spider-Man from the 94 series, and this isn't the first time that these shows have crossed over, but damn, it felt so fucking good to see this version of Spider-Man again. Then in the finale, we got another cameo of Peter Parker, and it's revealed that Peter was able to find Mary Jane in the multiverse. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I was hoping the Spider-Verse movies would be the platform to wrap up that last plot point, but regardless of my wants, this Spider-Man showing up got people screaming for a revival series, a Spider-Man 97. Even John Semper, the original showrunner for Spider-Man the Animated Series, the man who was there from day one up to the final episode, was quoted as saying, "All they have to do is call me. I'm here, and I'd certainly consider doing it." And that quote fanned the flames of possibility, and why wouldn't Marvel and Disney take the opportunity? Spider-Man has always been their number one superhero, and Spider-Man the Animated Series was so immensely popular that it became many fans' entry point to Marvel back in the 90s. You also have the benefit of the original staff interested in returning to tell more stories. We already know through various interviews that Semper had a general outline of where the story was supposed to go. With all that in mind, what could possibly stop Marvel from giving the green light? So here's the truth, Spider-Man 97 is not gonna happen. As much as we want it to, just don't get used to the idea of it. Around the same time that Marvel greenlit X-Men 97, they also greenlit a Spider-Man show called Spider-Man Freshman Year. Freshman Year will be a What If adjacent show, and like the show What If, it will show us an alternate version of the MCU, one where Norman Osborn plays the Tony Stark role in Peter Parker's life. We will see Peter learning to be Spider-Man through a different lens, one where Oscorp, which doesn't exist in the main MCU according to No Way Home, will play a larger role in Peter's life, including providing him with costumes, and I do mean costumes. Other events that take place in the MCU seem to still occur, like Doctor Strange and Daredevil's origin appear as they do in Earth 1999, or 616 depending on your designation. Both characters will actually appear in the show, notably Daredevil will be in his proto-suit from Netflix's Season 1. Spider-Man Freshman Year seems to have been a response to the reaction of the Marvel Zombies episode of What If. This episode prominently featured Spider-Man. While What If is a CG show that's trying to replicate the aesthetic of the MCU films, Spider-Man Freshman Year is a very stylized show, and I have to admit, I love the look of this show. It has this 60s comic book / cartoon look to it. It actually gives me vibes of the 67 series, which still isn't on disneyplus. Why, Disney? Make it happen. Even though the show has this cool retro vibe, it still gives off a sense of modernity. If the show can balance the story out, this could be one of the best Spider-Man shows. The fact that this is a multiverse show is interesting. Marvel has used What If to explore smaller corners of the MCU. To be honest, the premise of this feels like it was initially written as a standalone episode of What If, like a backdoor pilot. What if Norman Osborn recruited Peter Parker? Personally, I'm actually very okay with this, an MCU adjacent show, especially one that can easily be incorporated into the Spider-Verse films, and that final film has been delayed, so with no release date in sight, and this show's unique art style, it could make a great crossover. But yeah guys, the existence of this show means that it's pretty much a given that Marvel and Disney will not greenlight a Spider-Man 97. If I'm being 100% honest, back in the 90s I preferred Spider-Man the Animated Series over X-Men, so a huge part of me wants a revival just as much as everyone else who grew up in the 90s. The show was so good. Even though it ended on a cliffhanger, it also felt like it ended perfectly and it doesn't need a continuation. That Peter Parker got what no other version of Peter got before. Validation of his existence from Stan Lee himself, and the promise that he would find his Mary Jane. Spider-Man the Animated Series basically has a perfect ending. If Marvel really wants to do right by fans and revive a Spider-Man show, then the Spectacular Spider-Man is a far better option, a show with a unique art style and such great storytelling. Showrunner Greg Weisman even had plans that would have carried the show through 65 episodes, which would have gotten Peter through high school, and then they would have made TV movies, which would have continued the story showing us a college-age Peter and could have included the death of Gwen Stacy. The show was literally the only casualty of the Disney buyout in 2009. Most deals Marvel had in place with studios, theme parks, and toy manufacturers stayed the same. However, once Disney bought out Marvel, they almost immediately made moves to grapple control of the Spider-Man franchise away from Sony, starting with the animated TV rights. Sony conceded the TV animation rights to Marvel in order to not go through litigation over the film rights. While this sale was happening, Season 2 of The Spectacular Spider-Man was airing, and it had already changed networks from the CW to Disney XD. Though that move happened before the actual sale of Marvel to Disney, Disney and Marvel decided not to continue this series after the conclusion of Season 2, which ended on a massive cliffhanger. Continuing the show would have meant that Disney would have had to hire all the talent working on it from Sony. Ultimately, they decided they wanted to go in their own direction, and in 2012, Ultimate Spider-Man premiered to the dismay of all Spectacular Spider-Man fans. The craziest thing about the Spectacular Spider-Man is Disney didn't want to hire the staff away from Sony, but they had a huge connection to showrunner Greg Weisman, who is the creator of Disney's Gargoyles. I'm sure moving to Disney was well within the realm of possibility for Greg and the Spectacular team. But that's not the section of the Spider-Verse we live in. In our section, Greg Weisman went on to do Young Justice, another show that was cancelled before its time, then got a fairly successful revival on HBO Max years later. Regardless, The Spectacular Spider-Man is the show that needs a continuation, not Spider-Man the Animated Series. But unfortunately, the premise of Spectacular with its high school setting clashes with the upcoming Spider-Man freshman year. One last thing I forgot to mention. Last December, the show underwent a name change from Spider-Man Freshman Year to Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. No one at Marvel or Disney will say why, and nothing about the premise of the show seems to have changed, so I guess it is what it is. But if we're really getting to the weeds of it, if we really want to talk Spider-Man revivals, MTV Spider-Man, that show ends on the Spider-Man No More cliffhanger after Spider-Man puts one of his two love interests into a coma by dropping her off a building. We need a revival of this show. Someone call Mainframe and see if they're willing to animate another season. No show should end with Spider-Man wanted for attempted murder. As much as X-Men 97 was a triumph for fans, and gives Marvel the ability to have more cross-promotion than they ever had in the original series, the truth is, I just don't see a world where that happens. There's one more thing that places Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man above any revival show. Like I said earlier, this is a what-if adjacent show, and it uses a version of Peter Parker that is a representation of Tom Holland. Marvel is very much in love with him as their Spider-Man, and despite the fact that he won't be voicing the character in this show, the way that the character will be portrayed by Hudson Thames will be very much in line with the way Tom Holland portrays the character. Hudson Thames, by the way, is the same actor who portrayed Spider-Man in the Marvel Zombies episode of What If, so if you liked him there, you should like him in Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. As a fan, I'm actually more excited that we're getting an original show. While I would like a revival of either Spider-Man the Animated Series or Spectacular at some point, with Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, I feel like Marvel has an actual good premise and a fantastic art direction. If the creative staff has a good story to tell, this could very well be one of the best, if not the best, Spider-Man cartoons ever. We'll find out later this year when it premieres on disneyplus. But if the show does suck, we all know that John Semper is one phone call away and willing to do that revival. That's going to wrap this video up. If you enjoyed, please wheel up that like button, comment, and subscribe to the channel. More videos are coming soon, and I promise we're going to be covering the best content that fandoms have to offer. Until next time, your friendly neighborhood nice one is swinging off.